Howdy YouTube. So I'm doing a live stream here. I guess it's a Q&A. So until people show up, it's just gonna be me talking. So pretty much at the moment, I'm just I think it's about 7 o'clock or something around that here in Texas, and I'm waiting for stores to open. So hopefully there aren't any technical issues, as I managed to have that at the front of every live stream, it seems. Um, Hi, Alex. What's up? Um, well, I'm working on a X200, or actually, it's an X201 converted to an X200, and then I'm going to take the X1 motherboard and put in an X200 chassis and sell that on Craigslist, or actually maybe Let Go. But yeah, I'm just trying to make a little bit of cash so I can get an apartment. That's about it. And what I was saying earlier is Harbor Freight and they open at 9 and Best Buy opens at 10. Even though I hate Best Buy, they currently are the only store that's nearby that has a 240 gigabyte SSD in stock. So I guess I'm going with that. I mean, I did actually preemptively buy a 240 gigabyte SSD. If I can grab it from here. Give me 1 second, I guess. Okay. There we go. I'm back. But I feel kind of weird shipping a Fatty Dove Racing SSD with a laptop. So I'm gonna buy a PNY one for $30. So I've been using these Ingram drives, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of bought this one just because it was insanely cheap. So. But I'm probably going to use it for my own computers, not things I'm selling, because I have used PNY before and haven't had any reliability issues. But this is a little bit questionable. So, but anyways, yeah, so I'm pretty much just going to kill some time here. I guess there's only 6 viewers at the moment. But at I kicks in. I do not know what that means. Are those moon runes? They're not Korean. I mean, my Hangul is pretty terrible, but I don't know what language that is. Or maybe it's like a weird font. No, I don't think it. Oh, anyways, though, what else am I? I guess I'm up to. I don't know. Maybe I should have just done the magazine reading thing to kill some time before people actually show up to a unannounced live stream. Or maybe this one won't be that successful since it's um Finian Quail says Hangul SMH. I don't know what SMH is short for. So if anyone in the chat knows, be free to tell me. Oh, wait, do I hold it like this or like this? I'm still not sure about that. So I bought a I guess tiny CRT monitor that's about yay big. Probably gonna use it to make like some sort of weird Pentium 3 portable computer in like a K-Pro sort of style. It is a Yeti microphone. I bought it just because Well, I was originally planning on returning it, but I ended up not returning it, so I'm stuck with it. I probably would have done a little bit more research, but it had a brand name and seemed reputable, and it worked well with Linux, so or GNU slash Linux. So I ended up keeping it. Oh, Alex asks, what will the next video be about? Um, hopefully it is going to be done on time, but and debatably, I'm probably going to do a Temple OS video. I'm going to see if I can get it running on some actual hardware. The process to install it on actual hardware doesn't seem to be the most complicated, but it does seem to have some compatibility issues. It was mainly ran in a virtual machine. So since August 11th is, I guess, Terry Davis Memorial Day, but hopefully I'm not late with that video. Part of the reason I haven't made any videos recently is just because, well, oh my god. Okay, this thing broke. Does no longer hold a charge, so can't use my camera. I guess I could have made something using this webcam, but it would not be that great in quality. Do you use OpenWRT on your gateway? Oh, okay. Like my router, like I guess it's not quite a router. It's weird sort of access point router thing that they ship and most people use. No, I haven't really messed with it because I'm actually at my parents' house at the moment, and it is kind of I don't want to mess with their router. It's not my hardware. If I mess it up, I can't really do much with it. I have installed the Tomato firmware sort of thing, and that worked in the past. Um, thoughts on Cloudflare denying 8chan their service? I personally don't think it's a good thing. I mean, well, actually, no. But I mean, on that type of issue, though, is private corporations generally have their the. I don't want the government to regulate them to the point where they can't deny a questionable site from a domain name service. But if it was a business decision, I would not have made said decision, but it was probably just to save face and separate Cloudflare from the association with that recent shooting in El Paso. Hmm. But I kind of view it as a company's decision to do something that's a little bit of a upfront to free speech. So on that part, I would put it in your own hands, just not to use Cloudflare. But what VPN do I use? I use private internet access because I went to Linux Fest, Texas a while back, and it went relatively okay. But they had a free VPN thing for a month at the private internet access booth, and I went there and took a bunch of them. So I used those for quite a while, and then I found out their service was actually okay, and it was $40 for a year, so I bought one of those, and now I get to watch whatever shows I want to. And yeah. um, Molina Inson or Moliana Inson, sorry if I butchered that name, says hi. Well, hi as well. Alex again says, "What shows do you watch?" I don't know. I mean, the most recent thing I watched was like Prison Break. It's okay. Um, I honestly just, well, I actually like kind of terrible reality TV, but it doesn't seem like a lot of people heed that type of television. But I, yeah, I don't know. I torrented Oh, maybe I shouldn't say that. I legally acquired Golden Boy, but I don't think a lot of people are too concerned with old anime. Um, Dewey Jones says hello. Well, hello, Dewey Jones. Right here, I'm just kind of killing time till stores open. I can get back to work on some rebooting some X200s. Was working on a X220 build as well, but I'm probably having some hangups on that. I actually don't know what the issue is it might actually be a hardware issue instead of a ROM issue. So if that's the case, I'm probably gonna have to delay that project. But um, X200 build is coming first, and then I'm going to take the X201 parts I have left over and put them on Craigslist once they're put together into a somewhat working state, and slap some operating system on there that people will actually pay for on Craigslist, because I generally do not have a high bar for the computer knowledge of the average person on Craigslist trying to buy a cheap laptop. So Ed Gein says YouTube is garbage. Stream on Chatterbait instead. You know, I don't think that would be the m- correct medium for the type of content I deliver. So, um, but it is kind of interesting though that some of the gun channels that were kicked off of YouTube went to Pornhub, which is kind of funny, I think. Um, you know, if the situation arises where I get kicked off of YouTube for some reason, I my content is very non-offensive though, so I don't see why that would happen. I would consider other streaming options, but things like I think GNU Media Goblin is the thing I'm thinking of. It's probably a more reasonable option than Chatterbait, but I guess that doesn't have the payment feature. Anyways, though, uh, well, no new comments, so let me think of something to talk about. Oh, um, since I've been needing to buy a new Swik 8 clip, I found out though you can just use a Swik 16. So if you are if you are doing a LibreBoot project or Core Boot project for the first time, and you're worried if it's going to be a Swik 16 or a Swik 8, you can just buy the Swik 16 clip, and it will probably work, because you can just position the clip onto the Swik 8 chip and flash it. Even though it is a little bit more difficult, it will actually flash and work. Of course, you know, you have to change the pin out to the Swik 8 pin out. Notice how I'm only using the 4 pins on the front or back, I guess. Let me think about what else to say. I I guess Alex says you said that your dad used Emacs. How come you ended up using Vim? Well, I started using i3, and the key bindings for Vim then were quite easy to pick up. So I haven't really had much of an issue with Vim. For a bit, I was considering using Emacs, but it seemed to be a little bit more of a environment you live in versus something that was more, I guess, correct for my use case, which is most of the time just pulling up a terminal, maybe doing something over SSH or something like that. And Emacs is a little bit, I don't want to say bloated, but compared to Vim, it is a much bigger installation. It is has a lot of features that I probably wouldn't use. I'm not a big fan of Lisp, but that's because no one would ever take me serious talking about it. So, would you rather use? Oh, Ike Kixon says, would you rather use Windows 10 or Mac OS as a daily driver? I would have to lean towards Mac OS, honestly, out of the two options, just not on Mac hardware. Um, have you tried DWM? No, I haven't. So DWM actually does use, I think it's like 1 megabyte versus like 4 or 5 megabytes for i3WM in terms of RAM savings, but most hardware I use that actually has Sorg on it that isn't really relevant. So I've just never had the need to use DWM. So, but it is kind of interesting. I don't like the fact that you'd have to recompile though for config file changes, which, and while i3 works, I don't really feel a need to change anything. In fact, I haven't changed much in my setup for quite a while. I use Debian with testing packages, and I use i3WM network manager. That's about it. Pavu control. I mean, if you have a setup that works and you already wrote scripts. By the way, I need to upload my. I fixed my script or changed it a little bit to update it to Buster. So TARDs or trip codes auto racing Debian strip or script. Oh, I need to catch up with the comments. Random number asks, why Debian over Gentoo? I like precompiled binaries and the ability to yank the installation out of my X200S and put it in a different computer and have it boot up. And I mean, imagine you could compile a kernel with Gentoo, with Gen kernel, that'll just be kind of a bloated, universal sort of working kernel. But I don't really see the point at that point of using Gentoo. But yeah, Alex has a good point there. Imagine all this stuff on a Core 2 Duo. In fact, I use a low voltage Core 2 Duo that is also slightly underclocked because, I mean, actually, I could change the clock rate right now back to its normal 1.83 gigahertz, but that's because it's the morning in Texas. If it was in the afternoon, I might have to worry about my computer overheating because I have the AC turned off. Because otherwise, you'd be hearing a old AC unit whirring in the background, and I got like hair in my face. It's slightly itchy. Okay, there we go. No hair. And, I Kixon says, how reliable / stable is Debian stable testing packages for you? Fairly. I've been meaning to do a reinstall after the dist upgrade, just because the new kernel they shipped it with for some reason doesn't like my horrible Franken Debian of testing, or actually Buster testing packages, Stretch, and I think I had one Jesse package, but it's become a little bit of a mess, but it works still. So, but if you just run Debian stable, you shouldn't have any issues with this upgrade. Back when I was going from Jesse to Stretch, I actually managed to do the dist upgrade with no issues during a very boring government and legal environment course for one of for my university degree. But, Lamu, Lormengard. Sorry, computer's a little bit far away. Says, wow, hello, dude. Well, I'll say, wow, howdy, dude. What's up? Okay, Michael asks, what about Arch Linux or Arch Linux? Might that be an option in the future? I've considered it. Haven't had any issues with Debian. Um, I'd be a little bit wary about it just because I do like the ability of running the same operating system on pretty much everything I use, because it means that the issues you encounter with the distribution are easily fixable even on a server. And Arch is a rolling release, so I would kind of feel a little bit uncomfortable working with a rolling release on a server. But so my servers do not use any testing packages, so it's Debian stable, which you can just kind of leave running, run a upgrade or sudo apt update and upgrade every once in a while, and it just generally works. I think I had close to 100 days uptime on my MMXChan server a long time ago, if you don't count internet downtime. But so the internet here isn't the most reliable. Michael says, this is no concern for me. I use one portable USB disk on all my machines. Well, yeah, I mean, Arch Linux or Arch Linux. Out of curiosity, what's the proper pronunciation on that? Anyways, though, I well, that's the thing. I mean, if I started using like Arch Linux on everything, I probably would have gotten used to it, and it would be the system I'd be using. But yeah, I don't really use it. I mean, Debian works. Why change? I'm just gonna ignore Cat6 comment. Random number says, oh, sorry, Cat6, but random number says thoughts on Void Linux. Well, I haven't used Void Linux. People keep asking me to try it, but I don't really like hopping distributions a bunch, so I've kind of stuck with Debian. Before that, I used Ubuntu, but that was a very long time ago. Probably last time I used it was 14.04, I think. But I I don't really like a lot of things about the Ubuntu environment, and it was enough of a reason for me to switch to Debian, which is what Ubuntu is actually, I think, downstream of or upstream of. Either way, it's based off Debian testing. So why not just use Debian at that point? Get a distribution that cares a bit more about your freedoms, isn't ran by a company, and hasn't sold your data to Amazon. So sorry. Ikixon says, do you want a career having to do with computers? Yeah, I do. I'd prefer to start my own company, though. But I do enjoy working on computers. I just wouldn't want to be doing other people's projects all day. It sounds a little bit mind numbing, I guess, over the course of many years. So either I'd have to switch jobs over the years, or I don't really feel like doing that. I was just thinking I'd pursue my own interests and see how that goes. Worst case situation, I'll just end up getting a job at a tech company down the line. Alex, did you switch majors as you wanted to? What are your plans after after college? I did not switch majors. Planning on just getting it done as quick as possible. And if I have any luck doing computer repair, I actually might not finish my degree, and I might finish my degree. Just had like one semester left, but So, yeah, I don't know. I might, depending, I actually have a pretty decent GPA. So I was actually thinking about switching to UT Austin or at least applying there and finishing up over there and maybe doing graduate school. I wasn't planning on ever, well, I don't think I was planning on switching my major for my undergraduate degree. I was planning on switching it for graduate school into either like human computer interactions, the visualization department at A&M, or that's, by the way, the visualization department isn't really like art in the conventional sense. It's more of like OpenGL and programming and that sort of essence or territory. Um, or maybe just doing cybersecurity. I don't know. I haven't really put too much thought into it recently. Michael says, same for me. Ubuntu always broke after using too many PPAs. Do you use PPAs with Debian? Occasionally. I don't think I've. Uh, hmm, I don't think I actually have any on this install. Um, Sour Joe Deb says, I have an HDD. Wanna boot in 5 seconds. Debian 9 boots in 17 seconds after system D optimization. I've done system D optimization on, I guess, well, I don't want to show the video because they told me not to film at the Apple Store, but I got one of my, I think like X200s with a, I think the installation's still on here to have like a 4.2-second boot time for the actual system. The For some reason, LibreBoot takes like 7 seconds, and the new MacBooks actually boot up pretty quick. But I was able to get my ThinkPad X200. It's the 2.5 gigahertz one that sold already on renegadecomputing.org to boot up in 24 seconds to a usable interface, not just like from press the button to usable interface. So all the way to i3 past login, whereas the Apple Store Max would take like 30 seconds. So um, I would just get a solid state drive. They've gotten insanely cheap nowadays. This 120 gigabyte drive was like probably like $16. This one was I don't know, like 20 something. I can't remember, but it's a weird off brand. I've actually heard these inland professional ones were pretty reliable, or at least relatively reliable. I have no clue about this. The only person I've seen using one of these is Drago1, and I don't think he uses it for anything serious. I kind of bought it just because it was cheap and on a whim. I was considering, well, I don't think I'd use it on anything I'd sell. So I'm actually waiting until about 10 o'clock for Best Buy to open because they're the only people with PNY solid state drives in stock at a reasonable price right now in the local area. Um, so trying to think of other optimizations. I mean, you could get rid of if you want to increase your boot time a little bit more, you could probably get rid of the or not get rid of it completely, but there's a delay setting for 5 seconds in Grub, and if you just change that to 1 second, you can still navigate the Grub menu. And the default LibreBoot Grub time is 1 second, anyways. So you could go through there and just kind of change the Grub config to have a default delay time of 1 second. That probably might shave some boot time if you haven't done that already, but that's a pretty common thing. So you probably have already tried that. Um, Ari New says hi. Well, hi, hello. Michael says grub or sys Linux for or system D boot. I just use grub, but that's because most of the LibreBoot or coreboot installs I've used have a grub chain loader in there. So if there's no grub config, it won't actually boot up. So systemd boot CTL is apparently pretty good, says Emmanuel Torre, but requires EFI. I think there's some core boot options that support EFI, but I'd have to double check. I am a little bit afraid of compiling core boot on to my X200S just because of the WSON 8 chip, which means that if I make a broken core boot installation that won't boot up on it, I will kind of have a brick till I take it apart and solder wires to it, which is not fun. WSON 8 packages are not fun. But the X200S does give you a little bit of a better battery life and a 1440 by 900 display, which I like using. iKickson says, have you tried MX Linux? No, I have not. I haven't heard that much about it actually, but I've heard a few people mention it before. Mormon Guard says, well, I love for this for small channel on this stream, you can get answer to any question. Nothing is missed. And by the way, I know you use Debian, your top 5 Linux for desktop. And from Russia with love. Okay, well, I guess top 5 Linux distributions for desktop. Honestly, top one's probably going to be Debian, followed by probably Arch Linux. I mean, at least for these are like my personal preferences. And I haven't really lived in that many other Linux environments. I mean, I've used Ubuntu before, but I wouldn't put that on anywhere close to a top 5 list. I've used Crunchbang, which is just pretty much Debian again. I don't know. Maybe I'll just put in that as a filler slot. Is Crunchbang plus plus still maintained? I don't know. Or Bunsen Labs is what it is. I mean, if you don't want to do any sort of ricing and want something that looks pretty, but yeah, I don't think I actually have a top 5 list. Trying to think. I could. I've been meaning to try OpenBSD, but doesn't use a Linux kernel, so it's not a Linux distribution. So, I don't know. Hopefully that's satisfactory. I wish I could say more. I have never used really any of the Fedora stuff except, I guess I've used Red Hat, but I haven't really used it for anything on my own systems. Emmanuel Torres says Imanu I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, Alex asked, have you tried Devon? No code of conduct, no systemd. Sounds comfy. I've thought about trying it. It is a FSF approved distribution, but frankly, I have one problem with it. It's that so when I sell LibreBoot computers, I sell them with Atheros cards. So I have a bunch of these little Intel Wi-Fi cards just laying around, and unfortunately, they end up going back into my systems that I use personally, just because whenever I sell a system, oh, bye bye, Athros 9K chip, you're gone. So, yeah, I end up using Intel IWL Wi Fi, which isn't included. I think I just killed a mosquito. Um, Alex 200 says, "Hey Trip, what up?" Well, I'll say I'm just waiting to buy a solid state drive for an X200 build. It's going to be pretty similar to the other X200 builds that I did a little bit ago. Lormengard again says, "Sorry because of the restrictions on the volume of letters. Had to shorten the message as I could." Oh, it's fine. I think I got the general gist of it. It's a little bit hard to read, but that isn't an issue. Michael asks, "Does anyone in Texas schools use Linux?" Not really. Uh, I haven't been to a well. Okay, are you talking about universities or school districts? Because when I hear the word school, I generally think of like high school, elementary school, that type of thing, middle school. Um, but if in the universities, the comp sci department at A&M uses Linux. Not quite sure what distribution, or maybe it's Unix, but you SSH into it. It's some sort of Linux sort of or Unix sort of deal. Um, But the MIS department, unfortunately, is Windows based, and I have a weird hatred for Windows 10 because of it, mainly because I've been forced to use it. And it is actually probably the worst UI I've actually seen on a Windows version. And combined with a large slew of privacy issues, but the UI thing is kind of a big deal. Because I personally can't stand it. I mean, if it's a public computer, whatever, if it has privacy issues, I don't expect someone else's computer at a public institution to be the most privacy safe to begin with. But um, yeah, it's just horrible user interface. I honestly would prefer Vista's UI, even though it's ugly. Um, oh, okay, so it's uh, Hemanuele. Hey, that's what the comment earlier was. I am gonna be really bad at that. Hemanuele Torre. I apologize for my mispronunciation. Well, I guess I answered Michael's question. So, Lormengard says, "Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm kind of a little bit far from the screen, and I can't read it very well. So I've been it's uh, Iormungard. Okay. Hmm. Jumper 149 says Vista's UI was the most aesthetic thing in the world when it came out. Just a little buggy. Oh yeah, and I also didn't consider most the computers that were shipping it with 512 megs of RAM, or which kind of made it quite laggy as well. But yeah, I don't know. I guess my i3 kind of config is a little bit of a flat UI, but Windows 10 just looks kind of like it was designed for tablets and then retrofitted by a bunch of outsourced workers into a more desktop-like operating system to deal with the failed Windows 8.1 code, while at the same time changing the UI randomly to go so you can't mess with basic settings that you used to be able to. And at the same time, the executives in Microsoft are changing their business model to a service industry. So just slew of reasons why I hate it. And yeah. um, Michael says Windows 10 now comes with WSL2 Windows subsystem for Linux, and Debian can be used in the shell. It now even works with Docker and Visual Studio Code. Well, that doesn't cover any of the privacy issues. I guess it's nice if you're a developer, but um, if, I mean, yeah, I guess if you're developing stuff that uses Visual Studio Code, like I, I mean, I know how to program C sharp, and I can do that if I wanted to, but I don't like .NET programming. So yeah, that kind of makes it not a pleasant environment for me. And since I don't do any .NET development anymore, I'm kind of happy. Or, hmm, what's good creep? I'm a little bit confused by that comment. Um, what is good creep? Hmm, I'm kind of confused. But that was Og Singh's comment, which I probably butchered the pronunciation of that name horribly. But I Hickson says, do you use normal i3 or i3 gaps? Um, so okay, I use normal i3 on my new install script, which I haven't used because I haven't migrated installations, and my install is still going strong. So I have i3 gaps installed on this, but I realized I don't use any of the i3 gaps features. So I've just kind of gotten rid of that in the install script I've updated, but I haven't actually put that on my website yet, or at least I don't think I've done it. And God Singh, did you just forget how to speak English? I did. Oh, I'm sorry. English is my native tongue, so it's kind of hard to forget how to speak it. But I guess that doesn't apply for most of the world. So, oh, Alex says, I guess he wants you to sing the Radiohead song. I'm not singing that. I have a horrible singing voice. It's quite awful, actually. I've always kind of wanted to make a punk band at some point in my life. It just seems like a good old time but I could probably do the yelling sort of vocals, but I don't ever plan on doing any proper singing. Guitar Matt C says, I just woke up. Hello. Well, hello. What's up? Um, Jumper149 says, do you play any musical instrument? Well, I actually forgot it for this live stream, but I recently made an electric violin, which is kind of cool. I play the violin because it's just a Korean tradition that all the offspring must be forced to do orchestra in before university. So I actually know how to play violin. I am not a huge fan of the instrument, and that isn't because anything against violinists or even how the instrument sounds. It's just that the I have my hands have a very long kind of hand span. Like I can kind of type on an X200 keyboard almost one-handed, X60 just fine. But I mean, they kind of stretch quite a bit. So, but the problem with the violin is it is a very small instrument up at the top, and it gets very high pitched. And part of that, and the combination of having to press down on the strings vertically like this, if you don't have very petite hands, does kind of warrant in it making some kind of off-putting sounds. And I have never been a fan of the E string on the violin. It's too high pitched. I don't think it makes a good sound unless it's combined with the rest of an orchestra, even though there are solo violinists. But I Ongad sings as WTF, did you block me, LMAO? No, I did not. I'm kind of confused. I just read your comment, so I don't think I blocked you. I honestly don't know how to use that feature in the chat. I think what happened is maybe you just type too fast. Sometimes if you put too many comments in a short period, it'll like put a block on it. I don't control that though. Alex says, what would be a good name for a GNU/Linux punk band? I don't know. Let me think. I'm trying to think of a Steve Ballmer pun, but I don't know. I'd have to give I'd have to give us some more time for thinking of a good pun. I really like the name Dane Bramage for a punk band, though. I'm sorry, but I am not good at reading Russian characters. I think so, or Skrillex, I think is what it's called. But anyways, 1998 says, "What are your views on Uncle Ted?" So I assume you're talking about the Unabomber. I don't. Well, I haven't really read that much about his writings or manifesto or things like that. So I don't. I know the general gist was he was kind of into the thinking that modern technology is gotten overgrown and is kind of gotten off from what is typical for a human to live in. And well, I do believe in some of that, but I don't think the answer is trying to bomb universities. I think probably a more reasonable solution would be to, take control of your technology and don't use, don't use devices that are made to sell your information. My main concern from, I guess,